Hey everybody, this is Steve Garfield from stevegarfield.com, and we're here for another episode of Hello, Millie, with my mom, Millie Garfield, one of the internet's oldest bloggers. Let's bring her onto the show. Hi, Millie.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great today. I'm indoors. I'm warm. People come into my apartment. I can't even recognize them with the hats and the gloves and the hoods. And the mask. I just see a little bit of the face. Then I say, "Oh yeah, I was expecting you. I know who you are behind all that."
Well, that's great. So today we're going to talk about my friend Jan Zlotnick's book, 23 Things I Wish I Could Ask My Mom and Dad Today. And we've been doing this show for a little while, and you've been enjoying the book.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. I really enjoy every page. I've reread the questions a few times, and every time I go through the questions, I make a list of future posts that I'm going to talk about. And one question leads to another question. That's what I'm finding.
One question leads to a question that's not in the book.
That's right. One question leads to a question that's not in the book. I haven't made that list yet, but that's a potential.
Oh, so you have new questions.
I have new questions. And at the end of the book, he asks for people to send in their questions. And so I haven't done it on paper yet.
Okay.
I see the potential for that one. So
Well,
that book keeps me busy. It gives me something to look forward to, a challenge. Oh, I read the other day, Channel 2, your body needs exercise, your mind needs exercise also. You have to have new challenges. And that's what I'm having now. I don't exercise the body that much, but I think I'm exercising the brain better than the body.
that's fantastic. Let's bring Jan Zlotnick on, the author of the book. I think he loves what you're saying.
Okay.
Hi, Jan.
Hey, Steve. Hey, Millie.
Hi, Jen.
What do you think of what you just heard from my mom?
Yeah, that's the goal. That was the dream, that the 23 questions would just be the icebreaker for
Okay.
those conversations
Yes.
with people in your life who are still there in this short, precious time that we have.
Yes. Oh, they're wonderful questions. If the dining room were still open the way it used to be, I would have dinner with the same people every night. And sometimes it would get pretty boring because what's the conversation going to be? What are you going to have for dinner? What do you like? But this time, when the dining room opens up, I am going to come in with a question for the group at dinner. And so that will liven up the conversation a lot. And then I might give them a homework. Think about this. I'm going to ask you this question and think about it when we get together next time. What's your answer going to be?
Yeah.
I can't wait to get back in the dining room.
And you might end up being a prosecutor.
I doubt that one. I'm not going for that. I'm going a different direction.
It's like, how did that dessert get on your plate?
Okay. All right. Oh, I'm looking forward to that because we need livening up in the dining room.
Yes.
I can't wait for that one.
So, Ma, in addition to the questions in the book, there's illustrations, and you really like the drawings, and we have the illustrator on here, Catherine Budai. So let's welcome Catherine.
Hi.
Hi, Catherine. Hi.
Hi, Millie.
Hi there. Nice to see you and meet you live.
No, it's nice to see the other artists behind 23 Things.
Yeah, this time I have ideas about what to put in, and I didn't want to spoil it, but I'm still thinking about how I'm going to do this one because it's not going to be so much art the way I've done in the past. This one, I'm thinking more, it's going to be a people thing. So I want to sketch the people that have influenced me for this particular question. So I want to do a good job on the people.
Right. So in the book that my mom really likes, Catherine's made these little images. Catherine, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you did and what inspired you to draw things like on this question we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, so the art behind the book is a lot of just my own personal feelings. So it's just my connection with each question. And it's always been interesting to me because when talking about the book, Jan and I explored where the conversations would go, but I never thought that the art could be interpreted. So seeing Millie draw on the book was just so exciting for me. And like I said, there are just personal connections with about myself and how it connected to the question. And you'll see that there's black strokes being used, and as well as these other colored strokes behind. The colored strokes represent the environment that you may feel you're in while you're in that question, and the black strokes is my feeling of Jan in that situation, or it could be his parents. Or anything. So the movements, you'll notice when the questions do get a little more uncomfortable, the movements do get a little more uncomfortable as well. There's definitely more hard edges and just discomfort there. But for something like this with love, it's just something that feels a little more calm and things coming together. So that was my thoughts behind the art in the book.
That's really interesting that there's so much in such a small little design. There's so much in that one thing. Mom, do you have your book there with any drawing like that she's talking about, what you've done?
Well, I want to find the one that I really had fun doing, and it expanded. I don't remember the page number. Was it page 9? No, I don't. I have it. It was until I find it, I'll tell you. It was about my wedding, and I started doing. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Yeah, wedding.
Hold it up.
Yeah, wedding day.
Hold it up higher, a little higher. Oh, there we are.
Yeah. Okay, you've got it.
Yep, we got it.
Yeah, when I started doing that, I started doing wedding day, and then I started to think about my marriage. And so I have the colors of my marriage. This was a small, like she showed, just a small sketch.
Hold it up a little more.
All right. How's that?
Well, let's see.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So my marriage was pretty rosy, so I used a lot of bright color. And then some things were not so good, so I used some black, just a little black, to show that part. And then peaceful. There's a little blue in there. Can you see the blue and the green? So I put those in for the peaceful times. And as I progressed with it, I got more inspired and added more colors or less colors. But one thing led to another, because all I was doing was just saying wedding day. But then I thought about my marriage and more and more. And mostly it was a marvelous marriage. So it's a happy picture, colorful. Yes.
So while we're at it, let's go to the question that we wanted to talk about this week. So, Mom, you had the question that you wanted to share and answer this week.
Yes.
What? Oh, when? I need to edit that. The question is, when did you first know you were someone remarkable?
Right, that's the question. And yes, that's the question. Well, when I started to think about that one, every question makes me think. I don't get the answer right away, but I keep thinking about it. And the more I thought about it, the first thing that came to my mind was when I was a child. I don't know if I was 10 years old. I went to visit my grandmother, who was the synagogue, and I went to visit her, and she introduced me to her lady friends, and they loved me, and they were so loving and so warm, and so then I felt recognized and appreciated. I never knew I was so terrific until my grandmothers and her friends told me that I was. And so that was a long, long time ago. And then years and years later, in my late 70s, I saw something in the Globe, and it was about blogging. I had never heard about blogging, but I knew Stephen would be a good person to ask. He was involved, and he told me about it. And he said, "Ma, would you like to do it? You want to be a blogger?" Yeah, sure. So he right away set me up, and a friend of his gave me the name of my mom's blog, and that's what we used. And one thing led to another. At first, I did little comments, and I wasn't getting any response from anyone. So I said, "What's going on here? I want some response." So I said to the people who did read me, "Where are you people? I'm here. I'm 78 years old. I want a response." That got me a response. And one thing led to another. And very fortunately for me, Ronnie Bennett found me. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of Ronnie Bennett, but she used to work with Barbara Walters, and she had her own blog. Time goes by, and she was writing about the elderly. So she was happy to find me because no one that old was doing blogging. So once she found me and she wrote about me, then I got the people that was following Ronnie. So then things started to grow and grow slowly. She gave me a lot of help, and Steve gave me a lot of help. When there was something that I was talking about, he would put up an appropriate picture to make it more interesting. And it just kept on growing. And people from TV were contacting me, and I was being interviewed by newspapers, and I was all over the place. So it mushroomed. And eventually, one of the big part of that blogging was I was invited to Blog Her, which is a conference in California. And they found me on the internet. They wanted me to come as a speaker. Oh my God, a speaker. So, okay, I said, I had to go to California for this event live, and Steve went with me. So we went to a hotel in California, which was very exciting. And once Steve continued this part of the story, because we were in a nice hotel, and I'm walking around at the pool there, nice weather, and someone is chasing me there, and they want to interview me. So she herself was some publicity person, but she was looking for me to interview me. Okay. So that was really, really exciting. And so it went. And I knew that this fellow was a guest there, even though it was Blog Her, Dan McVicker. He was a star on a morning soap opera. And Steve knew I liked Dan McVicker. He was a handsome guy, and he was good. And so he, unbeknownst to me, arranged for us to have, what was it, lunch or breakfast? Breakfast. And I had breakfast with Dan McVicker. So I really had arrived. I was recognized. So those are some of the highlights. And things kept growing. And blogging, I didn't know it, but I was in the infancy of this growing thing.
Yeah.
So I had a large following. And Ronnie was sending me all these people. When it was my birthday, she made a special post. It's Millie's birthday. Wish her a happy birthday. So even Dan McVicker sang me a song on my birthday.
That was great. I remember the story you want me to tell is we were at Blog Her, and we were at the pool, and one person people came up and they wanted to talk to you because they were fans of yours. And they came up with a camera and they said, "Can I get a picture?" And they handed and Amanda Congdon, who was the host of Rocket Boom, which was the first live daily news show. No, it wasn't live, but it was the first daily news show. They walked up and they says, "Can I get a picture?" And Amanda Congdon was there, and she thought that fan meant to get a picture with Amanda, but they gave Amanda the camera. I had her take a picture of the fan with my mother. And we all thought that was the greatest thing that ever happened.
Yeah, that was a wonderful experience. So,
All right, I'll take a stab at the question. The question again is, when did you first know you were someone remarkable? So, what I did was I went around the country teaching blogging and teaching video blogging, and I would be at all these conferences, and I would get up there and teach in my way of teaching, which was kind of casual and informative and fun and getting the audience involved. It was a great time. Everyone had a great time. And there was one guy in the audience one time. He came up to me afterwards and he told me he was in charge of training at the Air Force. And he said, "We've been doing it all wrong. I'm going to follow what you did and incorporate your techniques into my training." And I didn't even know I had techniques. It was just me being me. But that was a pretty remarkable thing that happened. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that's cool.
Jan, you want to take a stab at your own question?
There are times over my life when it's been reinforced that I'm different, or what you might call remarkable, in maybe things that I've written or ideas that I've come up with, or schools that I've gotten into that have names, that maybe aren't as meaningful now, but back then it was like, oh, that's remarkable. But I think when I was thinking about this question, I remember actually a very terrifying experience. Do you need to cut to a commercial now so we keep people hanging? My life was at stake. We'll be right back. But now, a word from Millie's home Italian pasta sauce. Not that it was anything to make light of back then, but I was probably 4 or 5 years old. I was in the backyard in our home in Washington, D.C. on Oglethorpe Street. And I was sitting against a chain fence, and this was a small, low-income area. So all the houses were smashed together, but we did have backyards and alleys even, where all of the vendors would come. There'd be a fruit vendor and a strawberries, blueberries, cranberries. The guy would sing and come with his vegetables. It was amazing, right? So I'm leaning against the fence, waiting for the blueberry man to come. Love blueberries. And Big Steve from next door, there's a little Steve on one side and Big Steve on the other. I wish it were Steve Garfield and Millie Garfield and family, but it was not the nicest Steve, this Big Steve. And he was experimenting with an idea of putting a rope through the chain fence around my neck and proceeding to choke me, which was, when you think about it, an interesting idea, actually, because it's a piece of rope going through a chain fence around my neck. Let's see how this works. There's no way for me to reach up and do anything. He's on the other side of basically, he's on the other side of basically a wall, and I'm being choked.
Wow.
And I'm kicking and kind of screaming, but there's no one, and I probably couldn't scream loud. So I was able to hold on to the rope with my hands until my mother, I think it was, or maybe it was Steve's mother, came out and probably didn't save my life, but stopped the terror. And I remember my mother comforting me and remarking that I was a very strong boy, and that I held on, and with my strength I saved myself. I didn't need my mommy. I needed my mommy, but it was about me, and that's my earliest memory of that, is probably because I have a memory of the memory that my mother would tell me the story of. But I do remember that viscerally, probably because of the physical aspect of it.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing. Catherine, what are your thoughts on the question?
This one was actually the hardest question for me in the book. And though it's super lighthearted, it's just, so I grew up in a very large Filipino family. Both my parents divorced and remarried, and each parent had 10 aunts. I had 10 aunts and uncles in each branch. So being one of over 50 cousins was difficult because you didn't really, it was hard to find your identity within that entire ecosystem. So the idea of being remarkable, or trying to sound remarkable within that just seemed like a daunting task. So I just kind of just did my thing. And growing up in New York, you just move to the next thing, to the, one thing to the next. So I never really had the time to reflect on all of my accomplishments until very recently. So before the pandemic, I was really thinking about what I wanted to do in the next few years. Do I want to stay in New York, but there was something in me that was telling me that I needed to leave. But the idea of like coming from a large family, you also don't leave. You stay with your family. Your role is supporting the family and just finding everything you do is for them and it's not for yourself. So it was difficult because I knew that I had to make this move and I had to convince my mom. So I made a 50-slide PowerPoint explaining all of my accomplishments and it had timelines of like the budgets of like, if I took this path, this is how it would look. This is what I would have to do. This is how much it would cost. And I did that for 3 different life directions. And so I put everything in this deck and seeing everything for the first time, like all the different milestones, whether they were accomplishments or things that happened that were difficult for me, it was interesting to see it. And for the first time in my life, I was like, oh, wow, I've done so much. And I felt strong, I felt confident, and I felt remarkable enough to make this move. And so I showed my mom the PowerPoint, and after walking through it, she clearly saw that I thought it through, and she said, okay, it's about time, like, you're ready. And so now I'm here, I'm living out in Austin, Texas, and I'm making my life out here and figuring out how it goes. And at least now I have the PowerPoint to look back on in my weak moments. And yeah, it didn't happen until very recently for me.
Wow, that is amazing. Fantastic story.
Amazing. And I am so happy that you had that experience. I can tell you that when I first worked with Catherine at a company called Sprinkler, and we met and we started working on projects, and there was a particular project in which we actually produced 2 books. And instead of the typical brochures that companies would do, you know, Millie, where you have a brochure and it tells you all about yourself and your great products and technology, Catherine and I and another art director named Maria Milkovic, we put together 2 books of 2 real human beings. And it wasn't almost nothing to do with the product that our company sold. It was to show that our company is very interested in the lives of our customers. And so the book was an anthology of that life. And we had a photographer live with that person for a number of days and get their story without a crew, no lighting. You know, it was all recorded or taken notes. And it made these books. And I knew before this project, but when I saw this project come to fruition, I always think in my heart when I'm thinking about this and seeing the books, that was done because Catherine Budai is a remarkable human being.
Thank you.
Was that Catherine, like these kind of photos?
Yes, this is the book.
And if you show the cover, if you can, I don't know if you can.
Yeah, let me go get it. And Catherine, what's going on here?
Yeah. So for this person, this is Tina, and she got arthritis when she was 17 years old. So this was highlighting a little bit about her life and how just her journey about being able to one day be able to walk in heels, which is something that she never was able to do. So the title of the book is Now I Live My Life. I can't remember how many inches taller, but 3 inches taller. Yes. And so another big part of her life was her dog. So he's featured in the book a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna go look for let's see. Let's pick another one. Oh, is that so? What this is the cover of the her book?
Yep. That's Tina Campanella. She lives maybe still in London. And if you could come in a little closer or not, it says, "Now I live life," I think 3 inches higher, because for the first time in her life after her malady, she was able to wear be on heels. She always had to wear shoes that were flat. And I think, if I remember right, Kat, the first thing she did, I think when she was in Texas or somewhere, is buy cowboy boots.
Yes, that was it.
She was so excited. In the book, she talks about many vulnerable things about her life, the really hard things. And this demonstrated how our company that we did the book primarily for was following its promise to know thy customer.
So who saw the books? Once the book was made, what happened to the book?
Yeah, that was really a part of it too. It was not to push this on people, but for it to casually be available on meeting tables, in the lobby. And yes, if you were a salesperson, we help them to know how to do it. You don't push it on them. You say, listening to you and your family and your story, thought you might like this. There was a little card in the book that had a little space for you to handwrite, and it was important to handwrite a little message. So if you gave it to them on the spot, that was ideal, or you could send it to them.
So that brings us all around back to your new book, this book. And let me just pull up the title. 23 Things I Wish I Could Ask My Mom and Dad Today. So, Jan, if people want to get it, where do they go?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the easiest. It is on Amazon, as long as you remember the whole title. There are other titles called 23 Things something, like 23 Things Michael Jordan's jersey, because he's 23. But if you remember, or you can get close to my name in the title, or even Catherine Budai's name, it'll come up in Amazon. But we think a good place to go is, Catherine and I put together a website called Jan's Little Notebook, JANS Little Notebook, Jan's Little Notebook. That's really helpful because you can see what other people's experience have been with the book, and you can see inside the book. There's a little video there of why we even did this. And it just gives you a little bit more insight.
And how about the part where my mom is thinking about questions that aren't in the book, that are she's thinking of them because of the things she reads? She said, do you want people to send those to
you? The last page, and on the website we have a little section that even asks for this, an easy little form. Not asking any privacy questions. You just, what question would you like to ask someone in your life now who's alive? While you have the chance now, what's the question you would ask? And so we've gotten a lot of those questions. And one thought that Catherine and I have is to do a daily journal with everyone's questions, not mine, everyone's questions. So it could be something like 365 things.
Oh.
Or 50.
As the follow-on book.
Yeah, I have a Stoic journal that I write in, and that kind of thing, because there's comfort in that, right? And in the intro of the book, we also make the point that that this is for you to start a conversation, and it's just an icebreaker. And you know what? I have two sons. We have two sons. They're older than that. They don't live in the house. And one of them said, "Hey, Dad, why aren't we doing this?"
Oh.
And so we scheduled it. He bought me a nice bottle of aged dark gin, and that's my choice. You don't need to have alcohol to do this, obviously. He has coffee or something, and we do just like you're doing with Hello, Millie.
That's great. Well, this was really just fantastic. So, Mom, thank you for coming on Hello, Millie again.
That's my phone. I choose not to answer it.
Pick it up.
That's the way we end the show, with a phone call. So
It usually happens.
we'll let you go. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, it was
This
great,
was great.
talking with you.
Love you all.
Love you, Millie.
So long.
Love you, Kat. Love you, Steve.